All right, next I'm going to call on Mr. Paul McDougall to do the induction of Mary Ann Corbett, please. Paul.
Thanks so much, Ambrose, and I'd like to thank the committee for asking me out here to do this. This is a really special one. I've done, maybe this is the third one. In 2018, I had written some stories on Roddy McDonald, the famous Waterford boxer, went on to live in Ontario for many years. And so that would have been one of the last times before COVID interfered with things. And it was, I was hemming and hawing whether to tell this little joke because when Ambrose said the politicians weren't here, well, I thought, oh, this is a great segue into whether I do this or not, because I'd already been hemming and hawing about whether to do it or not. And since they're not here, I thought I'd hem more than haw, and I'd actually tell the story. Because it actually happened here at Roddy's, that induction of that year. I think that was 2018. Anyway, so my wife and I we're at the table here, and Cecil Clark was here, the mayor at the time, and Cecil was great. You invited Cecil, he'd come, right? Cecil would always come to things. He would. He was here, and he sat right next to me. Okay, so it was Faye and me and his worship, Cecil Clark, the mayor at the time. So the meal was great as always, and then it was, you remember the dessert? Okay, strawberry shortcake. She doesn't want to be on the spot. It was a really nice dessert. And again, I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this, but then Jean helped me out, so I thought, yeah, I have to tell this. So I ate my dessert, and then I was just sitting there, and then I looked over at Cecil's, his dessert was still there. And then he looked over at me. It was kind of one of those awkward little weird moments. And then he said, would you like my dessert, Paul? I said, well, Cecil, you don't want it strawberry shortcake. And he said, no, I'm diabetic. I don't eat desserts. And so Cecil Clark did me a huge solid, right? He let me have a strawberry shortcake dessert. So I cannot say anything bad about Cecil Clark, because I thought that was a fantastic thing for me. Cecil Clark gave me his dessert. Now, I really wasn't thinking of doing this until about 10 minutes ago. Jean, who only met like an hour ago, and I'm sitting over there, she barely knows me. She reaches over and says, unbeknownst to me, would you like my lemon pie, Paul? And I thought, I'm going to tell the story, because there it is. Look, that's the second one. I'm going to eat that afterward. Okay, so it's just some things happen. I don't know why they do, but they do. So I'm going to get onto the Corbett thing right now. Mary Ann Corbett, 37 years Coal Bowl, by the way. There's a bunch of people from Massachusetts, her family here. They're not here for Coal Bowl. They're here for their great-great-great-great-grandmother, okay? So. So in 1861, Pat and Jane Kearney set sail from Ireland on a one-way ticket to start new lives in North America. They eventually arrived in the Low Point area of Cape Breton along the shore of Sydney Harbor, and they were granted farmland across from the Waterford Lake at what would eventually be known as Kearney's Lake. With them, there were their two young daughters, Elizabeth and Mary Ann. When Mary Ann got older, she married Alex Corbett of Reserve. Both became very active in the affairs of the town, and Mary Ann served as a midwife to many of the women in New Waterford. The Corbetts had a very prosperous farm located not far from her parents. They raised livestock, they had fruit orchards, many gardens full of different vegetables. And they supplied the vegetables, the fruit, and dairy products to merchants in the town, as well as the local hospital. They were aided on the farm by their 11 children. So 11 children working as a midwife, operating a large farm, by today's standards would seem incredible, as it is. But Mary Ann Corbett became known for even more than this in her later years. She was a terrific walker. So in 1929, local clothing merchant Dave Epstein decided to promote a 15-mile walking race from Glace Bay to Sydney. Epstein was at the time well known in local circles as a sports promoter for baseball, bowling, swimming, boxing. The walkers were to start at the South Street baseball field in Glace Bay, and they made their way to Sydney under motorcycle accompaniment. On the day of the race, Mary Ann awoke on the farm in Waterford and did what she did any other day, milked 15 cows. She then put on her Sunday best, including a long black coat, there's photos of this, you've seen the photos, hat and purse, and she set out on foot for the Glace Bay starting point from the Waterford. Walkers were to be in Glace Bay at the ball field starting line a half hour before the 2 p.m. start to get their number and get prepared. Anyone not at the start by then would be declared out of the marathon. Mary Ann was given the number 136. Officials were in place in various points along the race route to Sydney, making sure contestants were following what they called then the heel and toe rule. The race was strictly meant for walking, and one foot had to be on the ground at all times. It wasn't a running race. Anyone who disregarded the rules will get 2 warnings, and on the third offense, disqualified. So the road from Glace Bay to Sydney was patrolled by motor police, firemen, Boy Scouts, and a number of local cyclists, of which I am proud to be a cyclist today. And that's how I learned of this story on a cycling trip out here to the Waterford Museum a number of years ago. Segway. Drivers helping with the race were given a special pennant to affix to their cars to give them the right-of-way on the Glace Bay Highway. The chief clerk of the course was Andy Watson. Mayor Morrison of Glace Bay was the starter. There were 5 men charged with timing the race. The race judges included Mayors McConnell and Wadden. Roy Chappell was the race organizer, and sponsor Dave Epstein, plus others. The race referee was Theo Sidoro, and Deputy Chief R.J. McDonald was the course marshal. 4 local doctors attended in case medical assistance was needed. This was a very professionally organized race event in 1929, close to 100 years ago. A few hours later, number 136 was the first in her age group to cross the finish line in front of Dave Epstein's newly opened store on Charlotte Street in downtown Sydney. Hundreds of people watched the racers cross the finish line. Dave Epstein presented the winner with a trophy she cherished all her life, and this can be seen today in the New Waterford Historical Society Museum. That's where I first saw it and learned of this remarkable story. After the race, Mary Ann Corbett walked an almost equal race distance back to the farm in New Waterford and was the first one up the next morning. Sure, what else? News of Corbett's amazing walking prowess spread throughout the island. It crossed the strait and made it as far as Boston, where the mayor at the time, Jim Curley, made a recognition of it. Boston, Massachusetts. What makes Corbett's accomplishments that day in 1929 even the more astonishing is that she was 69 years of age at the time and the oldest competitor in the race. 4 years later, at the age of 73, Corbett had business in the Myra area to attend to, and she walked the entire length and back in one day, a distance of 38 miles. She died in 1944 at the age of 83, and her husband had died a year earlier, and they are buried together in St. Alphonsus Cemetery in Low Point. In the strictest sense, would one call Mary Ann Corbett an athlete? Did she compete in other races? Did she win them? What possessed her that day to make the long walk to Glace Bay, to then enter a walking race to Sydney, and then walk from there back to here, New Waterford? She had to have walked over 40 miles that day, and 15 of it at very top speed. One could easily guess her 60-plus years working the farm, tending to her husband, raising 11 children, bringing numerous others in the world through midwifery would count as training. In an age when Olympic athletes forego partnerships, children, careers, basically their whole lives for a shot at competing for a medal, women like Ann Corbett are at the front of the pack. Completing that walking race in 1929 at the age of 69 with, one can only surmise, 135 or more other younger competitors is a feat of athleticism very hard to outdo. 93 years later, today, Ann Corbett, a daughter of Irish immigrants forced to flee their homeland forever for a new precarious life in Cape Breton, stands tallest on any podium the world can build. In 2018, CBRM officially renamed the Grand Lake Road paved multi-use pathway from Upper Prince Street in Sydney to Reserve Mines, the Ann Corbett Trail. Six generations of her family were there that day when we did that. Many of them are here tonight. In fact, 18 Corbetts are right here at table number 2 at the door. They're all going to go to the drive-in, walk-in, drive-in movie for Coal Dust Days afterward. Seats have been saved for you, don't worry. So, congratulations to the Ann Corbett, 6 generations. Before you know it, a few years from now, I'll write a follow-up on the 7th generation. I'm sure you'll be there. Congratulations.
Someone want to come up to accept the award, please? Billy?
Billy Corbett? Yes. Congratulations on behalf of your whole family and the Waterford Society. Here you go. Okay? Thank you very much.
Do you want to say a few words? Do you want to say a few words?
Okay, Billy's going to say a few words.
Yeah, and then outside for a photo.
I promise, Ambrose, I'll be brief. Can anybody hear me out there? Okay. On behalf of the Corbett family, thank you for honoring my grandmother. Also, in particular, Paul McDougall, when he approached me about doing the item on my grandmother, I had never met her. She died in 1944. I was born in 1945. But on behalf of all the Corbetts, and I want to recognize my sister Alana's here, Alana McDonald, and I have one other sister living, Barbara Burrows. She's on Vancouver Island. That's our immediate family. My father, Leo Corbett, was the last Corbett last living Corbett of the Corbetts. But I want to pay particular attention to Yvonne Cooper, because when we had the committee that Paul organized to get the trail going, the Ann Corbett Trail, Yvonne never missed a meeting. We had meetings in at Center 200 and at the Town Hall in Sydney, and Yvonne was the one that had perfect attendance. She was there for all of them. So I won't go on and on, but like I say, on behalf of the Corbett family, that's all of us. There's McDonald's here, there's Coopers, there's other McDonald's, Atlanta, and so on. Just want to thank everybody. It was really thoughtful of you to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.